So I welcome you again for the second session for the fourth day of the Faculty Development Program organized by IQAC Om Sterling Global University Haryana in collaboration with Vaish College Bhiwani Haryana on quality and technological enhancement in teaching and research. The topic for the session is technical research writing, which will be presented by Dr. Himanshu Agarwal, Professor, Punjabi University, Patiala, Punjab. But before that, I would like to just give a brief introduction of Sir. Dr. Himanshu Agarwal is currently serving as Professor and Head in Department of Computer Science and Engineering at Punjabi University, Patiala. He has more than 29 years of teaching experience and has served at academic institutions such as Thapar Institute of Engineering and Technology, Patiala, Guru Nanak Dev Engineering College, Ludhiana, and Technical Teachers Training Institute, Chandigarh. He is an active researcher who has supervised more than 40 MTech dissertations and contributed around 100 articles in various research journals. He has already guided 13 PhD scholars and currently supervising 8 PhD scholars. He also has 3 grant patents. He is on the editorial and review boards of several journals of repute. His areas of interest are software engineering, computer networks, information system, ERP, and parallel computing. Over to you, Dr. Himanshu Agarwal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So today I'll be talking on effective writing basically. So writing is a skill which needs to be mastered. So many of our scholars face a challenge in writing their work. So that is the purpose of today's presentation. So I'll start with my presentation. So is it visible? Yes, are the slides visible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, your slide is visible and you are audible, sir.
Okay. So, principles of effective writing. In science, the credit goes to man who convinces the world, not to the man whom the idea first occurs. I'm facing some issue. Not my slides are not scrolling.
Sir, actually, we will be changing the slides from our end. You can just tell us when to change it, right?
Okay,
Is it
okay,
okay? Okay. So
okay,
this is the third slide.
okay. Should I do something, exit presentation or something?
No, so you can just view the slide and just give your presentation, sir.
Okay,
And just
okay,
let us know when to change the slides.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, next slide if you can show, please. Yes. Next thing is what makes good writing and what does it take to be a good writer. Next, please. What makes a good writing? So, first thing is good writing communicates an idea clearly and effectively. So, that means this takes having something to say and clear thinking. That means you have to say something and you have to be very clear about it. Another thing is good writing is elegant and stylish. So, it takes time, revision, and be a good editor in order to write elegantly and in a stylish manner. Next, please. What makes a good writer? There are certain myths or certain notions that are prevailing about good writing. First notion is that it is an inborn talent. Second notion is that years of English and humanities classes makes you a good writer. Third, an artistic nature. Fourth, it may be some influence of alcohol or drugs. Or lastly, it can be some divine inspiration. These are certain myths or certain notions which are prevailing that you what makes you a good writer. Next, please. So, actually, what makes a good writer? First thing is you should have something to say. You should have a logical and clear thinking. And thirdly, a few simple learnable rules of style. These tools will you can learn in the class, and all these things make you a good writer. And take home a message. Writing is to inform, uh, is a craft. I'm missing some part of the presentation. Okay, not it is not an art. Clear and effective writing has to be learned. Yes, next one. In addition to attending lectures, what other things you need to do in order to be a good writer? Read. You have to read many things, pay attention, and imitate. And let go for academic writing habits. That means you should master the way the academic writings are done. Talk about research before trying to write about it. Develop a thesaurus habit. That means search for right word rather than settling for any old word. That means you should be always in search of new words, synonyms, antonyms, their meanings, and more appropriate words in order to make your writing more effective and emphatic. Res- Respect your audience. Try not to bore them. Stop writing for inspiration. That means you should write in a manner so that your audience have continuous interest in reading your writings. And also, mm, you should be very careful that you should not bore them. Accept that writing is hard for everyone and you need to revise. Actually, you cannot write all the things in one go. What you need to do is you have to revise many times, and nobody gets it perfect on the first try. Learn how to cut ruthlessly. I'll be telling much about this. Cutting ruthlessly. Never become too attached to the words. And lastly, find a good editor who can make your writing perfect. Next, please. Clear writing starts with clear thinking. Next. Before you can start, ask what I am trying to say and when to finish. Finishing point will be, have I said it what I intended to say? That will be the finishing point. Next, please. Once you know what you are trying to say, then pay attention to your words. And today's lesson is strip your sentences to just the words that tell. That means only meaningful words you will be putting in your writing. Heavy words and non-required words, long words, you will avoid in writing. That is the crux of the today's lesson. Yes, next please. The secret of writing is to strip every sentence to cleanest components, every word that serves no function, every long word that could be short word, every adverb verb that carries the same meaning that's already in the verb, every passive construction that leaves the reader unsure of what you want to say. These are thousand and one adulterants that weaken the strength of sentence. These are few things you need to avoid. That I'll repeat, every word that serves no function, that means redundant words you have to remove. Every long word should be replaced by a short word. Every adverb that carries the same meaning as that of verb should be avoided. Every passive construction should be avoided. And these all things weaken your writing. And only by avoiding these things, you can get to write good things. Next, please. Let us have an example that in a US government order, they had written like this in 1942. A blackout order was there at the time of war. Such preparations should be made as well as will completely obscure all federal buildings and non-federal buildings occupied by federal government during the air raid for any period of time from visibility by reason of internal and external illumination. This was some order which is very difficult for the common people to comprehend. Next, please. So, FDR's response was to tell them that buildings where they have to keep the work going, to put something across the windows. Only thing is during uh, some air raid, they have to cover their windows so that light do not go doesn't go out and create some problem. So that was the only thing which government wanted to communicate to the citizens. And with this kind of simple sentence, the things become comprehensible. Next, please. Let us have an example. Adoptive cell transfer immunotherapy is based on ex vivo selection of tumor reactive lymphocytes and their activation and numerical expression before reinfusion uh, to the autologous tumor bearing host. This sentence doesn't make me what I want, that it does not encourage me to read such kind of writing because it is very difficult to comprehend. Next, please. Another example, current studies in our laboratory are focused on the logistical aspects of generating autologous cell based patient treatments, the genetic modifications of lymphocytes with T cell receptor genes, and like cytokine genes to change their specifically or improve their persistence, and the administration of antigen specific vaccines to augment the function of transferred cells. This is an academic writing at its finest, but it is boring, unreadable, written to obscure rather than inform. These are some of the problems in such kind of research writings we come across many times. Yes, next please. From the joys and pains of writing, there is a journal. My professor friend told me that in his academic world, publish or perish is really true. He doesn't care if anybody reads it or understands it as long as it is published. This is a common notion that we are more bothered about our things that get published rather than it is being read or cited or being understood by the people. So this is a very big problem in research writing. पब्लिश करो और गायब हो जाओ. Next. So today's lesson is reduce dead words and phrases, cut and cut, learn to part with your words, follow the subject, verb, and object principle. This I'll be telling you. Use strong words, avoid turning verbs into nouns, eliminate negatives, use positive constructors rather than negative ones, and use of parallel construction. These are the certain principles we are going to discuss. Next, please. Reduce dead words and phrases. Get rid of jargon and repetition. Verbose is not a synonym for literary. Next. I would like to assert that author should be considered to be a buffon. So here, in simpler terms, simplest terms, it can be written as author is a buffon. Next. The expected prevalence of mental retardation based on assumption of a normal distribution of intelligence in population is stated to be theoretically about 2.5%. Next, please. So here there are certain words which can be avoided. I have underlined it based on the assumption of in the population stated to be theoretically about. If we remove these words, then our sentence will become much easier. Next, please. So, original sentence was the expected prevalence of mental retardation based on the assumption of normal distribution of intelligence in population is stated to be theoretically about 2.5%. It can be simply written as the expected prevalence of mental retardation if intelligence is normally distributed is 2.5%. So this is the expected prevalence of mental retardation in a normally distributed intelligence, and its amount is 2.5%. So this sentence can be rephrased like this, and it makes it much simpler to read, much more meaningful, and much more understandable. Next, please. To control infection with the Mycobacterium tuberculosis, a robust cell mediated immune response is necessary, and deficiency in the response predisposes an individual towards active TB. So, this is an example. Another is a deficiency in T cell mediated immune system predisposes an individual towards active TB. This can be easily rephrased to this. Next, please. This paper provides a review of basic tenets of cancer biology study design using as examples studies that illustrate the methodologic challenges or that demonstrate successful solutions to the difficulties inherent in the biological research. So many words can be cut here. So instead of writing this paper provides a review, this paper reviews of basic tenets of cancer biology. These words we can remove and we can simply say this paper reviews cancer biology study design using examples that illustrate specific challenges and solutions. Instead of writing such heavy words, illustrate the methodologic challenge that demonstrate successful solutions to to the difficulties inherent in the biological research. This all can be avoided, and this sentence can be simply written as: this paper reviews cancer biology study design using examples that illustrate specific challenges and solutions. Next, please. Hunt down and cast out all unneeded words that might slow the reader, because many times the reader has to comprehend all the words that you are writing, and heavy and non-meaningful words not only reduces the flow but also creates hindrance to the understanding and flow of the user, and user finds it very difficult to read that sentence and sustain the interest in the manuscript written by you. Next, please. Very rarely, quite basically, generally. These words seldom add anything useful. Try the sentence without them and see how it improves. So do not write words really, very, quite, basically, generally. Next, please. Watch out the verb to be. Often there are is extra weight. There are many students who like writing. So instead of writing there are many students, you simply write many students like writing. So there are is not carrying any meaning here. Next, dead weight phrases that we often write during our writings in the event that, in the nature of, it has been estimated that, it seems that, the point I am trying to make, what I mean to say, it may be argued that these are the some deadweight phrases we commonly use in our research writings that do not carry anything meaningful. Next, please. Also, there are few more dead word phrases for the most part, for the purpose of, in a manner of speaking, in a very real sense, in my opinion, in the case of, in the final analysis, these are some dead weight phrases we commonly write. Next, please. There are certain phrases which can be rephrased to their easy equivalents. All three of the, instead of writing all three of the three. Fewer in number, simply you can write fewer. Give rise to, simply say cause. In all cases, that means always. In a position to, you can write can. In close proximity to, near. So these are some phrases which are very long. Instead of writing such long phrases, we can write just one word, and that can make your basically writing more effective. Next, a majority of, instead of saying a majority of, you say most. A number of, you say many. Are of the same opinion, agree, at the present moment, now, less frequently occurring, rare. Next, please. With the possible exception of, you simply say except, due to the fact that, because, for the purpose of, for. Next, please. In spite of the fact that, So instead of writing such a long word, you can say although. In the event that, you say if. New innovations. No need of writing new before innovations. One and the same thing. That means the same. Period of 4 days. Simply say 4 days. Personal opinion. So opinion is most, no need of writing personal. You say opinion. Shorter or longer in length. Shorter or longer is itself sufficient to say about length. Next, please. Constantly, you should be looking out for extraneous words that crop up like weeds. Ask yourself if the word or phrase is necessary. What happens if I take it out? And most of the time, you will find you don't need that word or phrase. Next, please. So that means cut, cut, and cut. Learn to be a part with your words. That means you have written certain words and you should learn how to part with those words. That means how to get rid of those words and still you are writing it in a effective manner. Next. Don't be afraid to cut. Actually it is very difficult because we have also made an effort to write few words, and then if we cut those words it makes us difficult, we are afraid. So you should not be afraid to cut the words. This is a very important thing in research writing. Next. And for effective writing you have to be vigilant, you have to be ruthless. After investing so much effort to put words on a page, we often find it hard to be part with them. But fight their seductive pull. Try the sentence without extra words and see how it's better, conveys the same idea with more power. So, this is important that you are able to write without many extra words and you are able to convey the meaning in a better manner. So that is the crux of the idea. Next. Parting with your words. Next, please. Here is an example. Brain injury incidence shows two peak periods in almost all reports. Rates are the highest in young people and elderly. So this can be simply said in a very simple manner that brain injury incidence peaks in young and the elderly. So no need of writing so many other words. Next, please. Another important thing is you have to follow an active voice. That means you have to follow a subject verb and then object principle, SVO. This you should remember, subject verb and object. So next, please. So simply you have to follow this principle, subject verb and object, or sometimes it is subject verb, object is not there. Next, please. In passive voice, mm, sentences the subject is acted upon and the subject does not act. Subject is something on which some action is taken. So it becomes a passive verb. Passive verb is a form of verb to be plus past participle of the main verb. The main verb must be a transitive verb. That is, take an object. Transitive ट्रांजिटिव वर्ब मतलब उस पर प्रभाव पड़ रहा है, जो आप पढ़ते हो ना क्रिया अकर्मिक और सकर्मिक, तो उस पे जिस पे प्रभाव पड़ रहा है, सो ऑब्जेक्ट पे प्रभाव पड़ रहा है, सो दैट इज नोन एज द ट्रांजिटिव वर्ब. नेक्स्ट प्लीज. अब ये सेंटेंस है एक जिसको कहते हैं पैसिव वॉइस सेंटेंस है. So direct object is she, object is coming first. So she, the direct object of the verb, she is not a subject in this case. Is means form to be, जिस पे प्रभाव पड़ रहा है, to be, and past participle of the transitive verb, that means to love, that is the direct object. So who is loving her? Here she is loved, आप कह रहे हो, but who is loving her? This is not very clear from this sentence. So इसमें जो सब्जेक्ट है जो उसको लव कर रहा है वो छुप जाता है जब आप पास्ट उसको पैसिव वॉइस में लिखते हैं. नेक्स्ट प्लीज. President Kennedy was shot in 1963, but who shot President Kennedy is not clear here. The direct object of the verb, he's not a subject here, President Kennedy, because he's not shooting somebody. प्रभाव किससे पे पड़ रहा है? प्रेसिडेंट कैनेडी पे, तो वो डायरेक्ट ऑब्जेक्ट हो गया. और वाज इज ए फॉर्म टू बी जिस पे प्रभाव पड़ रहा है, और शॉट इज ए पास्ट पार्टिसिपल ऑफ दी. शॉट एक क्रिया है जो जो कि हो रही है और किस पे डायरेक्ट ऑब्जेक्ट पे प्रभाव पड़ रहा है. इसका ऑब्जेक्ट प्रेसिडेंट कैनेडी पे पड़ रहा है. ट्रांजिटिव वर्ब है, क्रिया हो रही है, किस पे हो रही है? प्रेसिडेंट कैनेडी पे हो रही है. तो किस पे इसके शॉर्ट करने से किस पे प्रभाव पड़ेगा? प्रेसिडेंट कैनेडी पे. तो इसलिए ये एक सकर्मिक क्रिया है जो कि प्रेसिडेंट कैनेडी पे प्रभाव डाल रही है. बट इसमें कहीं भी ये क्लियर नहीं है हु शॉट प्रेसिडेंट कैनेडी. नेक्स्ट प्लीज. The agent is AWOL. This is another example is passive voice. Mistakes were made. Nobody is responsible. Because mistakes are made, but कौन responsible है? ये silent है. No, who made mistakes? This is not clear. अगर आप इसकी जगह कहते कि प्रेसिडेंट मेड मिस्टेक्स एक्टिव फॉर्म में, तो आपको क्लियर हो जाता कि प्रेसिडेंट ने मिस्टेक्स की. नेक्स्ट प्लीज. Cigarettes ads were designed to appeal especially children. This is a next please. How to recognize this passive voice? So actually it is object verb than subject, or it is object verb. Next please. So here is an example. My first visit to Boston will always be remembered by me. So here object is visit to Boston. Boston is the object. और remember is a verb. क्रिया की क्या है कि हाँ, याद करना. Easily written as I will always remember my first visit to Boston. This is in active voice. Next, please. To turn passive voice back to active voice, you should remember who does what to whom. किसने किस पे क्या क्या प्रभाव डाला. Yes, next. It was found that 1 plus 1 does not equal to, the agent found that 1 plus 1 does not equal to, it can be concluded that the data were bogus. So this is a passive tense. Upper one is a passive, lower one is a active. The agent concluded that the data were bogus. It is believed that data had been falsified. The agent believed that the data had been falsified. A recommendation was made by DSMB committee that the study was halted. The study to be halted. The DSMB committee recommended that a study be halted. So as shown in table 3, instead of writing this, you write table 3 shows. Yes, next please. There is a common myth that passive voice is more objective. It is not objective, but it is more vague actually. Next. To study DNA repair mechanisms, this study on hamster cell DNA was carried out. So it is not objective, it is more confusing. So instead of writing, we can write to study DNA actually it is, I'm finding it difficult to study DNA. So uh, please go to the next slide. Next slide. General dysfunction of immune system has been suggested at the leukocyte level in both animal and human studies. So instead of writing it, I can write it in active voice. Both human and animal studies suggest that diabetes have general immune dysfunction at leukocyte level. So in this case, these human and animal studies, this is not being carried emphatically by the user. That means यूजर को फटाफट से ये नहीं पता लग रहा कि एनिमल एंड ह्यूमन स्टडीज ये कर रही हैं, जबकि हम आप इसको जब एक्टिव सेंटेंस में देखते हैं तो इट बिकम्स वेरी एविडेंट दैट ह्यूमन एंड एनिमल स्टडीज इसको सजेस्ट कर रही हैं. नेक्स्ट प्लीज. The active voice is direct, vigorous, natural, and more informative. Next, please. Most writing rules are guidelines. They are not laws and can be broken when the occasion calls for it. ये सिर्फ एक राइटिंग प्रिंसिपल्स हैं, इनको हार्ड एंड फास्ट नहीं फॉलो करना, बट दे आर गाइडिंग प्रिंसिपल्स, मोर ऑफ गाइडिंग प्रिंसिपल्स रादर देन लॉस. सो दे कैन बी ब्रोकन as if a occasion demands so. Next. For example, sometimes it is appropriate to use for passive voice when the action of the sentence is more important rather than who did it. अगर एक्शन की इंपॉर्टेंस ज्यादा हो rather than the subject who did it, then passive voice is suitable. 3 liters of fluid is filtered through porous glass beads. अब इसमें पोरस ग्लास बीड्स नहीं इंपॉर्टेंट, 3 लीटर पानी को फिल्टर करना ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है. टू एम्फेसाइज समवन और समथिंग अदर देन एजेंट दैट परफॉर्म्ड द एक्शन. फॉर एग्जांपल, द क्लिंटन्स वर ऑनर्ड एट द बैंक्वेट. सो हियर ये इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है कि किसने उनको फेलिसिटेट किया, ये इंपॉर्टेंट है कि क्लिंटन्स वर ऑनर्ड. Here the focus is on Clintons rather than who honored them. When the subject is unknown, many times subject is unknown. The professor was assaulted in the hallways. They do not know who did this heinous crime. So in that case, your passive writing is useful. Another important principle is use strong words and avoid turning verbs into nouns. This is the next principle. A sentence uses one main verb to convey its central action. Without that verb, the sentence will collapse. The verb is the engine that drives the sentence. Dull, lifeless verbs slow down the sentence. Action verbs reflect the action they were chosen to describe and help bring the reader to the story. तो पैसिव डल जो वर्ब्स हैं उन उनसे हमें छुटकारा पाना चाहिए और एक्शन वर्ब्स पे हमें फोकस करना चाहिए because verbs are something that they convey the central meaning of the sentence. So we are writing two sentences, just we have to compare them. Loud music came from speakers embedded in walls, and the entire arena moved as the hungry crowd got to its feet. So another way to write this sentence is loud music exploded from speakers embedded in walls, and the entire arena shook as hungry crowd leaped to its feet. So in got to its feet की जगह हम लिख रहे हैं कि leaped to its feet. Yes, next. So the WHO reports that approximately two-thirds of the world's diabetes are found in developing countries and estimates that number of diabetes in these countries will double in next 25 years. So instead of saying reports that approximately, so we are simply saying WHO estimates. Estimates is a, you can say, action verb. Instead of saying then in the next part of the sentence, the WHO estimates that two-thirds of the world diabetics are found in developing countries, and instead of saying estimates the number of diabetes, they are saying projects that the number of diabetes in the countries will double in next 25 years. So we are replacing dull words with the action verbs. So here instead of saying estimates, we are saying projects. Strong verbs carry main idea of the sentence and sweep the reader along. Put your sentence to be diet is, are, was, were, be, been, am. Okay, I'll tell you next. There are many ways in which we can arrange the petri dishes. We can arrange petri dishes in many ways. There are a long line of bacteria on plate. So instead of writing this, we say bacteria lined the plate. Next. Don't kill verbs and adjectives by trying them to be nouns. Next. So there are weak verbs like you are saying obtain estimates of. Simply say estimate. Has seen an expansion in. So instead of saying that, you say simply expanded, has expanded. Provides a methodological emphasis. So emphasizes methodology. Take an assessment of, say assesses. So here you are converting these formerly spunky verbs transferred into boring nouns. So next please. To provide a review of, simply review, offer confirmation of, confirm, make a decision, decide, simply one verb decide, shows a peak, peaks. Next. The case of buried predicate. One study of 930 adults with multiple sclerosis receiving care in two-third managed care settings or the fee for service setting found that only two-thirds of these needing to contact the neurologist of MS related problem in prior 6 months had done so. So here there are found that is a predicate subject, one study, and there is a confusing garbage in between 930 adults of multiple sclerosis. So this sentence need to be pruned. Next, please. The case of buried predicate. One study found that 930 adults who are receiving care with two managed care settings or fee service setting, only two-thirds are needing to contact the neurologist for MS related problems. Next, please. So another principle is eliminate negatives and use positives, positive constructions. Next principle. Yes, next, please. He has not often on time. So a negative word, not often on time. He usually came late. She did not think that studying writing was sensible use of any time. She thought studying writing was a waste of time instead of saying did not think. तो ये समझना मुश्किल हो जाता है जब आप कहते हो डिड नॉट थिंक इंस्टेड ऑफ सेइंग दिस सिंपली वी आर राइटिंग शी थॉट स्टडिंग वाज वेस्ट ऑफ टाइम वो ऐसा नहीं सोचती थी या वो ऐसा नहीं सोचती नेक्स्ट प्लीज इंस्टेड ऑफ सेइंग नॉट ऑनेस्ट you say dishonest, not important, trifling, does not have, lacks, did not remember, forgot, did not pay attention to, ignored, did not have much confidence, distrusted, did not succeed, failed. So instead of negatives, use simple positive words, not positive, but a very, you can say, short words. Yes. Next. Use of parallel construction. Next, please. Okay, there is an unparalleled sentence way of writing the sentence. Locust denuded fields in Utah. Rural lova was washed away by torrents, and Arizona the cotton was shriveled by the placing heat. So these are certain constructions which are not parallel. Actually, these things happened in parallel. Locusts denuded fields in Rota, torrents washed away rural lova, and blazing heat shriveled Arizona's cotton. So first one is a unparalleled construction, second one is a parallel construction because of both all the three things happened in parallel. Next, please. Make a choice and abide by it. Next. Pair of ideas, two ideas joined by and or but. Cardiac input decreased by 40%, but blood pressure decreased only by 10%. Next, please. Pairs of ideas, two joined by and or but should be written in parallel form. We hope to increase the response and to improve survival. Next, please. lists of ideas. A number of ideas should be written in parallel form. Next. Not a parallel sentence. If you want to be a good doctor, you must study hard, critically think about medical literature, and you should be a good listener. This is a non-parallel sentence. Parallel sentences: if you want to be a good doctor, you must study hard, listen well, and think critically about medical literature. This is essential that you write it in this manner. It is imperative, imperative, and imperative. That means these three things are joined by and. Another thing is, if you want to be a good doctor, you must be a good student, good listener, and critical thinker about medical literature. So these are all three nouns: student, a good listener, and critical thinker. Yes. Next. This research follows four distinct phases. First, establishing measurement instruments, pattern measurement, developing interventions, and fourthly, the dissemination of successful intervention to other settings. This is an unparalleled, non-parallel. Parallel is this research follows four distinct phases. First, establishing the measurement instruments. Second, measuring patterns. Third, developing inventions, and fourthly, disseminating successful interventions to other settings and institutions. एक्चुअली जो वर्ड्स थे ना, द इस है फोर्थ में, डेवलपिंग इंटरवेंशंस एंड पैटर्न मेजरमेंट की जगह मेजरिंग पैटर्न्स, दैट ब्रिंग्स कंटिन्यूटी टू द सेंटेंस एंड मोर पैरेललिज्म. नेक्स्ट. Next, please. These are few exercises that you can dissect the sentence and do on your own. Next, please. So you have to remove the dead weight sentences. Generally, for example, proportions. These are some things I have already told you. Next. Again, here we are not using positives. For example, not the result of, in many instances, and not being seen. So these are some things, some which need to be improved in this sentence. Yes. Next, please. So here are few things which need to be improved. Negatives have to be removed. Long sentence has to be brought down, and subject object problem is also there in this kind of sentence. Yes. Next, please. There is a buried predicate problem. No apprehensible, instead of that you can use the hedge word. This is a really long sentence that you are writing: a careful monitoring of achievement levels before and after introduction of computers. Yes. Next. Many teachers feared that the use of canned computer programs would prevent students from learning statistics. We monitored students' achievement levels before and after the introduction of computers in our course and found no detriments in performance. This is original sentence. Next. Review of each center's progress in recruitment is more important to ensure that the cost involved in maintaining such centers' participation is worthwhile. So these are few sentences which need to be improved. Next, please. So here you have to see subject, verb, object. Then there is a clunky phrase in maintaining. Watch the vague description such as important and also the worthwhile. And these are the problems which are there in this sentence. Next, please. So it is possible to rewrite this sentence in a better manner. We should review each sentence recruitment process to make sure its continued participation is cost effective. This is a possible rewriting of that phrase, that sentence, sorry. So that is all I wanted to say today in this lecture. Please quit the presentation. That's all from my side.
Thank you
Any
so much,
questions?
sir.
Any questions are welcome.
Any questions? Any questions from the audience? No, I don't think so, sir. There is any question as of now.
Actually, writing needs a lot of practice and lot of you can say repeated writing. So I can present only very few things in a short span of time. Technical writing itself is a full-fledged subject. So you have to master this subject in order to write it more in a effective way. So
Okay.
effective writing will make your life much easier and things more successful for you. So you should follow certain writing principles. I've told few principles, but there are many more.
Of course.
So thanks for patient listening. And if there are any questions, you are most welcome.
Sure, sir. I have asked the audience, but there are no questions as of now.
Okay. Okay. So I thank this Om Sterling University and Vash College for providing me an opportunity to be part of the this event they are organizing, and I hope that this university will continue to its endeavor to enlighten the audience in future also.
Sure, sir. Sure, sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this enlightening session. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Dr. Himanshu Agarwal. And thank you so much for your session, sir.
Thank, thank you, thank you. Okay, may I leave now?
Yes, sir. Sure.
Okay.